we are in the middle of an election campaign, a very intense election campaign. And Arman has asked to discuss and debate about healing balm. On top of it, he has asked me to conduct this debate, which is 24 hours into politics and all that is happening around me. So, hats off to your courage first for asking me to moderate this. The only saving grace for me is that I have such a great panel that I don't have to worry a lot. I just have to ask the initial question and pass on the mic, and rest will take care of itself. So, I won't take much time, but the topic is very interesting, the healing balm. And as you mentioned, Arman, everybody we see so many fractures, we see so many fragmentations, and we see so many divisions. So I would like the panelists to open with a simple explanation to my simple question. That why we Goans are so divided? We are 1.5 million, 1.6 million. Even if you stretch it by another 100,000, it is 1.7 million. But if you take the divisions among us, there are many. If you can count till 100, 150, 200, we are practically divided on every issue that is around us, from language to airport to everything. Keeping aside the politics of it, we seriously believe that I support or I stand for this or I don't stand for this. So I'll start with Claude Bob. Why are we so intensely divided practically on everything? What is the reason? Why we as Goinkars are like that?
Well, I have a different perception. I don't think division is a bad thing. It's far better to be have an issue raised with a lot of opinions in favor. Or I was discussing with Vivek this massive structure that they are putting up in Azad Maidan. He tells me it's a massive toilet. Now, putting up a big toilet in the Azad Maidan, now, you would say now, let's all acquiesce with it and let it go ahead, and we have this toilet next to the big monument and everything was fine. But this is where precisely our freedom to come and divide and say that no, this is not a good thing to do, and raise our protests over it, and then ensure that it is stopped, or at least tell them that what they're not doing is a good thing. I think these are important things, because otherwise today all of us will be praising Narendra Modi. It's important that we criticize. We are an open society. We remain zealous of our rights to be able to say things. About division, I think sometimes you look at division in society, but if you look at what happened in the last couple of weeks here with the people in this hall, there were 38 people, musicians from all parts of Goa, who came and created a master product. Now, that's not a sign of division. It's a sign of, people being able to get together, surmount their time and their effort and their energy, put their musical talents together, and come out with a product. And we're still, now if you look at the beautiful movie that Butler had produced, we are all fans. I mean, we used to always think of good movies as Hollywood movies or, as Bollywood movies. We never thought that we would have such an astonishing filmmaker here who brought so much of pleasure and joy to the whole Goan community all over the world. I mean, we discovered things that we never knew about us. So I think of these things as, I know it sometimes looks very pessimistic that we are division. And if you look at the Aam Aadmi Party, there's division there. If you look at the BJP, there's division there. You look at the Congress Party,
divisions within divisions.
That division is good, because as long as that division exists, we are at least safe. If there is unity there, then we are in very bad trouble.
Sir, how do you look at the story? Yeah, are we over-opinionated or we are enough opinionated?
No, I also have a take on this. I think basically Goans, we are our own enemy. Okay? You call it, I'm a pure Goan, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But normally when a Goan goes up, there'll be 10 people to pull him down. And I think for us, grass is always green on the other side of the fence. Yeah, I think that's the basic problem with us. There is a division on different issues. I think what we need is the one common enemy to come in. Only then we will get united.
I guess this being a Goan panel, everyone's going to have their own particular opinion on this. But I have two things to say. First of all, I don't think that my perception is not of division. Actually, I think Goans tend to be remarkably united about a number of things. the regional plan being one of them. It's an example of remarkable political people's unity against a political and economic elite which comes from Goa, yet it was defeated. I think that when we talk about most of the hot button issues in Goa, there's remarkable unity, actually. If we took a poll about the giant toilet outside, 99% of Goans would be appalled by it and would want it removed immediately. I think it's largely the same with other issues also, land use, casinos. I mean, I very, very, very rarely meet anyone who's an actual Goan voter who is in support of casinos. I would say it's not more than 1% of the state, right? Yet there's this perception people are divided, and that's partly due to apathy. It's also very convenient for a small cadre of political and economic elites to create this issue, oh, Goans always complain, no matter what you do, left or right, people are going to complain. That's not actually the case. You know, it looks that way, sometimes it's manipulated that way by media. The third quick point I wanted to make is about actually demographics. We talked about 1.7, 1.6 million in Goa. I would doubt that more than 600,000 are actually Goans. Okay, I mean, not to be nativist about it, but I think that's the case, and that is something that actually dilutes some of the potential political movements in the state. I mean, I do think on issues like casinos or that giant toilet, all 1.7 million can be taken into account. But this is also a factor.
It is usually arts, music, cinema, and sports that transcend the boundaries of differences of opinions and ideologies. And you did that. How do you look at these fragmentations in our own society?
I'll see. I do loaf around in Goa, and in my loafing around, I do go to the tribal villages. Okay, so they have a beautiful concept. Okay, they have something called a mand. Okay, or they call dazan. So if they have any differences, they sit there through the night for many days together till they come to a consensus. I think we have a great learning to learn from them. I think that's where they take collective decisions, they come to a consensus. And if those sort of forums are there for us as Goans, I think most of these issues will be, I think we have to learn from them. Okay, the way forward is to go back to our ancestors, yeah, what they did by taking those collective decisions and what they handed over to us. So I think with that, any division will diffuse. Yeah, so I think the mand and the dazan, what we say is very important as a concept to take collective decisions and be united for the betterment of the village and Goa and whatever.
As a society.
As a society in the whole.
Jen.
Thank you, Badre. So I think I'll start by reframing that question rather than answering the question, which is that what is the reason we are not united? And I think we need to go a little deeper into that. One of the things I think is we've not learned as a community to celebrate differences or value differences, that people should have a difference of opinion and different views. Because if two people agree, one is not needed, one is redundant, right? So how do we agree to disagree? How do we understand dissent? How do we understand voices of conscience? You talked about the casinos. I remember I was Armand around this place having dinner and a few beers with people, and there was this young boy who was very passionately in support of casinos because it gives him a little livelihood. So he's not looking at the bigger picture, right? So somewhere we've become very self-centered, very selfish, that we are looking at how do we select or elect a candidate who would benefit us, not the greater good. So I think there is a lot of literacy which is required as human beings, as citizens, because though I was born in Goa, I always say I don't like calling myself a Goan. Because show me the human being, show me the Indian. Where is the collective? The other big problem is this outsider mentality which runs deep in us, right? And I remember an eminent social crusader who said to me around 5-6 years ago when we were in a party, which was again at Armando's Gonzalez mansion, and he said, you know, Jerry, all these Indians also should not be allowed to buy any land now. He said outsiders, sorry. And I said, who are you talking about? And I said, all these people who come from Delhi, Punjab, Gujarat. I said, acha, acha, acha. And then suddenly it dawned on him that I'm married to a girl from Punjab. So he said, no, Jerry, I was not talking about you. So I said, no, you were talking about me. You are talking about my son, who's half an outsider. I had one son at that time. I have two now. I said, you're talking about my wife, who's an outsider. I said, what's wrong with you? Let's call all the people who are living in Bombay from Goa back to Goa. Let's call all the people living in Gurgaon back to Gurgaon. So there is a fundamental problem that we have in our mindset. You know, we try to change behaviors and show we are united, but the mindset and the attitude needs to change. I'll give another anecdote. This happened last year. I'm from a place called Baga, which is in Velum. And I remember these young boys I played with. I told them, you know, my uncles and other dad's friends have invited me to have a drink with them at the village club. So why don't you join me? And I walked in with 3 of them. And I was taken aside and said, why did you bring them here? And I was like, what are you talking about? And this is one of them is a doctor. They're educated guys. And they were like, they're not allowed in this club. Because they don't belong to our community. And I was like, what are you talking about? Grow up. We've gone into the next century and we still have this mindset. It's a feudal mindset. So I think it needs to change from there. We need to go to the roots.
Like Dr. Claude said, if 38 singers and more than that, musicians came together to create this Goenka Pond song, it obviously means that people are ready to unite at a good purpose. Of course, I go back to the program we had last year, and one of the topics was Susegado. And is it futuristic, or is it something that we should, jettison from our lives? And out of the 5 panelists there were 3 Goans and 2 non-Goans. And whilst the 3 Goans turned out and said that, Susegado is dead and it's all over, the 2 non-Goans said that Susegado is something that Goa should continue. Then again, the meaning of Susegado, a lot of people think that Susegado is lazy, which is not true. Susegado means relaxed, peaceful. So why would anyone not want to be peaceful? So are we trying to throw out exactly what we are strong at and try to imbibe something which is not our own? Like Jerry said, let's go back into the past. Like Bardroy said, let's go back into the past, into our own wisdom. And be proud of what we are as Goans. And I also agree with Jerry that we should not be divisive. Like the first anti-Goans are really the 40 guys sitting in the assembly. We cannot say that these 40 guys are friends. So in the same way, there are many good non-Goans. Hello? There are many good so-called non-Goans who are actually imbibing the spirit of Goa. So let's talk of unity from our side, from our own organization. We always think of positivity. Goa Forgiving is about forgiveness and it's about giving. That's our double meaning for our organization. So we will always remain positive and say that let us move forward and look at the future with hope.
Like you mentioned about casinos, and then you mentioned about being self-centered. So opinion poll day today, and I have to ask this question to this panel. If you talk to 90% of the people, 85% of the people would say that they don't like casinos or casinos are not in good taste, good health. But when you actually see how many people are coming on the street, how many people are participating in agitations to oppose casinos, very frankly, I never saw people of Panjim coming on the streets to oppose casinos. There might be people from Kankon or Pedne even voting on those lines, saying that this is not good, we cannot vote a particular government or a particular MLA or something like that. But when you see people from Panjim, you have never seen people of Panjim coming on streets and vociferously, vigorously agitating against casinos. So where do these issues ultimately take shape? Is it only in our mind? It doesn't get translated into actions. We never come out with those issues. We never put ourselves in the line of fire. What is our mentality today? You got to start with that. Okay.
You want me to do it?
Yeah, you start. Yeah.
Okay. There are a whole bunch of structural problems. First of all, I've studied casinos now to see how they succeeded in other parts of the world. And they are very insidious. It's not something easy that you can oppose. It's not like, a disease or an army or something that you oppose. They are very, very, very calculating. It's very difficult once a casino industry comes into a place to eject that casino industry. There are very, very few examples in the entire world. And one of the ways they do it is by corrupting the political system, but also by co-opting the media, and also by pacifying the local populace. Panjim is a small place. It's also a very middle class, upper class place, right? It's very difficult actually for Panjamites. We have to act, if there was an actual scandal, actually there have been. One person fell off a casino who was not supposed to be in a casino and died. But even then it was very difficult. The few times that Panjamites have opposed casinos, they can see that there is a overwhelming opposition from their own political class, from the MLA, right? Who for a long time the casinos were actually illegal, but for various pollution reasons, but there was personal fiat given. So it's difficult for people to fight something, an unbeatable enemy, or perceive an enemy that's perceived to be unbeatable. And secondly, the casino industry is extraordinarily adept at getting its hooks in and then being impossible to reject. You're quite right, the only way to reject them will probably be a mass movement where people are protesting on the side, on the banks. Very difficult to organize in Goa. That's part one. I think part two is the structural nature of Goa, where the populace is very, very dispersed. It's actually very difficult. It's quite difficult for people to come together in one place at one time. When it did happen on the day of that protest against the regional plan, I remember walking here. I came in here with the novelist Amitav Ghosh. Within 5 minutes, you could see that the regional plan was going to be defeated because there was that mass of people. But it's a challenge to get them here again and again. I think that there are complicated reasons for that. It's not a simple answer, but one of the reasons is the diffuse nature of the Goa electorate. But Claude would be actually the best person to answer this.
Claude, you have taken up most of the issues. You have actually fought against those issues. When you look at the support from the society in general, are you satisfied with the support you are receiving, or you feel that we are nicely sitting in a taven or a chai shop and we nicely talk about these issues there, but when it comes to coming on the street, actually participating in a movement to oppose such kind of issues, you don't get those kind of numbers on streets? What's your feeling?
Well, I'm an optimist, and I'm a despairing optimist, but I'm an optimist still nonetheless. But I have seen that you can't put these things in terms of, an incremental sort of a resistance that's building up or whatever it is. There are times in society when there's a huge amount of consensus over an issue, like Konkani language agitation. There was a huge consensus, and nobody could, stop that, even if they wanted to. And people went to the extent of cutting coconut trees and blocking the roads. Now, if you had, even in the case of the DuPont plant, there was huge consensus from everybody. And DuPont, which is the largest American chemical multinational, had to retreat and go because the Goans didn't want them, and the Goans said that they didn't want them. And it's not only the people in Keri, but the people from all around who came and parked themselves and said, we will not allow DuPont to come there. So at some critical moments, you sometimes get these we cannot understand for what reasons they come up. Sometimes some very good issues. Now you take the Ramponkar issue, which has been, very lukewarm from the time of the 70s. That we can't get the Ramponkars have got the law on their side, they've got people on their side, they've got strategy on their side, they control the seas if they want to, they can create. But somehow or the other, they've never been able to enforce the rule of 5 kilometers and ensuring that, they have a particular protected area for where they can fish and they can make a livelihood and so on. It's just a defeated class. And they've never been able to get it up in some form. Now, if you take Thirakol, again, Thirakol is ignited again the whole of Goa. I mean, if you go to South Goa and you go to any other place and you say Thirakol, do you appreciate putting up a golf course in Thirakol, where a company buys 12 lakh, 50,000 square meters out of a village of 13 lakh 84,000 square kilometers. That means they bought the whole village. And everybody says, no, this is not possible. We are not going to allow it. Now, how can you get them to enforce their opinion? Thirakol is right in the north of Goa. The rest of Goa is on the other side, literally divided by the Thirakol river. Now it becomes difficult. But even at that time, I remember Father Bismarck was there. There was a huge mobilization of more than 800 to 1,000 people on Thirakol for a show. and it was a musical event, and it was raining cats and dogs, but they put up a plastic, scaffolding, and they sang, and they did all sorts of things. So, if you ask me, there's no sort of general answer you can give. What happens, what sparks at one particular time, and why it erupts in something, I don't know. Why, for example, the anger against casinos is not erupting in the way it should, I'm not able to understand, because they are a source of destruction of the society. And they have to go. But for some reason, we have not been able to get everybody to be convinced of this, because some of our own friends are employed in the casinos, and some of them get some job out of it. But I'm quite sure that they would look for alternative, if they would get.
What do you think? What is the spark? Is the spark, so again, revolving around that self-centered attitude of ours? And if it affects me on a smaller scale, then we all participate and make it a big issue on a larger scale. So what is that spark? What is that spark that ultimately ignites us against or for something?
Right. So I think, most of the holy scriptures, and this is very strongly put in a verse in the Bhagavad Gita, that consciousness is understanding the suffering of others without it happening to you. Right? Now, I think that sensitivity and sensibility is missing. In Goa, we have a term called Shinkon Brut. So a lot of us may be educated, but we don't have that wisdom and awareness to feel that. So I remember Ricardo telling me, a friend of ours is right here, about how a cousin of his had to sell off his land to pay off a debt to the casinos. I remember Badra and I were in a dinner last year, and 3 of the people who were there in that dinner, they got very aggressive with us because we were speaking against casinos. Because they don't want to see the big picture. And these are Goan people, Goan Catholics. Because casinos offer us a lot of fun, enjoyment. Do you remember? And we were having a debate with them, but they were not ready to understand what the bigger problem is, right? There's a movie called Walking Tall. I don't know if you've seen it. It's got this wrestler called Rock acting in it. And he acted for the first time in a true story. It's based on the life of a sheriff called Harry Buford, who actually took on the casinos in this small town in the United States. And they actually show you what the evils that the casinos bring in with them, right? So I think there is a need for awareness. There is a need for consciousness. Probably the churches and the temples, they all need to make people aware that this is what the casinos do. Because if you make people kind of have that kind of debt, are you waiting for it to happen to one of your own family members? Maybe that's where the consciousness needs to get triggered. So I don't know, like Claude said, what the solution is, what the spark is, but something needs to be done because it needs to be engineered. I remember when we did this session with Manohar Parrikar during the last elections, one of the things that we specifically asked him about was what is he going to do to regulate and ensure that the casinos are better run or ousted. And he promised us he would do something about that. And later when I got to know that this man who runs this place called Delton.
Like, usually Goinkar means sensitivity. Are we losing it?
Yeah, to a certain, earlier Arman said Susega means relaxed. I don't think it's relaxed or it's not lazy. I think it's content. We were content. We had everything in abundance. And then over the last, recent past, the greed has taken over. So that Susegadness has disappeared. Yeah. So I think it's what we call progress or development, and where it's taking us. So I think it's all greed. I think if you put it in it's greed and it's fear of losing, and greed to accumulate more for the future of your kids. So I think that's the wrong way we are leading our lives as such. So I think if we understand that how much is enough, no one knows. So everyone is running. So yeah, so everyone wants a piece of everything. So to come together, to be conscious for this betterment of a society as a whole, I think I think we need to work with the kids, as in the small children. Otherwise, we look at victories as goals, as in we have a goal and then we win that agitation and we think we won. But that's not it. I think the change has to come at a much with the kids. That's the future. And if you work with the kids, I think then you have it in the long run. Yeah, so I think we have to involve children.
Yeah, I think first of all it's too harsh on people from Panjim to say that they are not agitating against casinos. Okay, I know some people who actually are doing it. Now let's say why casinos are there. People are saying they could giving employment. I want to ask one question to these people. Where all these people were employed before casinos came to Goa? Yeah. Second thing, gambling is like one of the panelists said. I also know certain families would actually have to sell their house, yeah, and move somewhere else because the evil of gambling. We need to first understand whether this industry is clean or not, whether this industry is good or not from all perspective, whether for our people and for the environment. Now, then CM said no Goans will be allowed in the casinos. So is it okay to say to spoil other Indians? That question comes. Yeah. So first of all, we need to another thing. When it comes to agitation, we all are united only on Facebook. Yeah. When it comes to the real issues, when it comes to time to come on the road, very few people will be down the road. That's the reason. That's the main reason why this evil is still existing.
Arman, we are angered, agitated in a virtual space, but in reality, where we need to make some difference, we are nowhere. We are just on our smartphones and we are just on our laptops, venting out all the angers and frustrations, which cannot make any difference otherwise. It feels that is what we are becoming. We are becoming what should I cannot call them paper tigers also, but virtual tigers.
Yes, it's like Jerry said, no shrink on brute. Sometimes when you learn and the more educated you are, you have the wisdom of India many years back, the political revolutions that we had in 1977, where people were that much lesser educated, but they had their heart to the ground. So, education doesn't mean that you're going to be the most communally infested places in the country will be in cities which people are educated. So I think we should, I always say, go to the past and then forge ahead into the future and look at it with a different mind. So we can bring about that unity. It's not easy. It's easier said than done. But yes, Facebook is our war zone. But we must speak and we must look forward to the future.
Vivek, you wanted to make a point.
I just wanted to add one thing. We're focusing quite a lot here in various ways about the individual, right? I'm always interested in systems and processes. And basically what we're talking about are tremendous forces. It's not individuals these are individuals who we mentioned about the casinos, yes, in that sense, but they represent an industry which is much bigger. And these processes are very powerful. Right, and this is partly what Claude faces on many, many fronts. We have to understand this, that Goa is under pressure, right? And it's under pressure partly due to the fact that it's tiny in a very large country. But also there are industries which want to take advantage of what the opportunity that Goa offers. And sometimes those opportunities are not to the benefit of the individual citizens who are already here. So I would like to always focus on these processes, and I think that's one good way to look at it.
Then I'll ask you another question, and then we'll go ahead. The biggest process in a democracy is election. That is the point, that is the time where we can think beyond ourselves. We should think beyond ourselves. We need to look at the larger picture, a statewide or a nationwide picture, and then make our decision about whom to vote. If you look around, the general sense, even among politicians, and I interact with them regularly, is that in many cases, in many constituencies, they have very gladly taken us for granted. They know whether this fellow is in BJP or Congress or Aam Aadmi Party or MGP or NCP or Goa Vikas Party or Goa Swaraj Party. The people of this constituency will vote for this fellow. I'm not saying this across 40 constituencies, but at least 7 to 8 constituencies where it is immaterial where that person is. People are going to vote for them, and the complete sense of understanding within the political parties that irrespective of the ideology, irrespective of what is his thought process or what he stands for, is going to get the votes. So that's the biggest process. We are talking about the biggest process in a democracy. How are you looking at that aspect when we as individuals look at that kind of an issue from the individual point of view or an individual prism?
I totally agree with you. That is the largest, and that is actually There's no other alternative. I mean, as Churchill says, the democracy is the worst form of government except for all the alternatives, right? So democracy is the only salve. If we're talking about a healing balm, democracy is the only option. The problem is that Indian democracy is been degraded very, very solidly over the last 30, 40 years. I mean, the kind of candidates across the country who appear, I mean, make our Goan candidates, many of them who are appalling, make them look quite good. You know, I mean, we have an incredible lack of capacity, of capability across the board in India. Part of that is due to the processes that have been allowed, that have been implemented. It is an extremely poor. It's an extremely poor process. So I think that I wouldn't point the finger necessarily to Goa, though it's bad in Goa. I think that this is the fundamental nature of Indian democracy, and the kind of capacity that rises to the top is extremely poor. Recently, I'm thinking about putting together a panel at the next Goa Arts and Literature Festival of the best and brightest young MLAs or MPs, sorry, from 2 or 3 different countries. And I have in mind a particular individual from Bangladesh who's extremely bright, he's extremely capable, he's educated abroad, I mean, he's forward-thinking, visionary, and he comes to India all the time. And I've asked a whole bunch of people, who is someone I can put on stage next to this man, who will be a partner, who is equal, who is capable? Zero. We have zero. You know, I just like to leave it at that.
Yeah. Claude, how are you looking at this? Very nicely Vivek spoke about the processes, but are we feeling ourselves when it comes to the biggest process in the lifetime of our country or a nation, which ultimately reflects the wishes, aspirations, and policies that people need? Are we feeling ourselves?
No, I don't. Failing ourselves is a different issue. What I'm saying is that we ourselves have allowed most of the degeneration of democracy to take place. We ourselves have allowed it. Now, if you take, this is the only country which has granted panchayats full powers to do many things within the panchayat areas. I mean, I keep on telling people that the sarpanch today is practically a prime minister for his village. He has got that much power. He and his panchayat can do things which can't be done even by the central government or by the state government. He can do things because they are empowered by special constitutional amendments. But who wants, in this audience, for example, who wants to become a panch? And who wants to become a sarpanch? Because they say, okay, these are jobs which are kept for sacristans and for people who had no other work in the village. So they were all sarpanches. But you don't expect us to take up those posts. But if we don't take up those posts and work at that level, then the change is, forget about trying to get somebody elected at the state level in this type of a complex scenario with all these different types of competing interests. I'm saying you are not able to elect somebody from your own ward. You are not even able to get yourself elected from your own ward. I mean, this ward is how many people? It's probably 800 to 1,200, maybe at the maximum 1,500 people. And you can easily go and check with them, go and talk to them, go and circulate your point of view and get elected, and then say, okay, I'm an educated person, I know Panchayat Act, I can take this. But you can't get this type of people taking this job seriously. And so if you can't get them taking it seriously at that level, they are not going to take it at a higher level. Now, Indian democracy is fantastic in as you said, idealistically, you can't get this type of a democracy anywhere in the world. In this country, a rickshaw driver can abuse the prime minister. Let him try to do it in some of the other countries, that there are, like Singapore or whatever it is. He'll be in the jail within 24 hours. This is the most liberal country in terms of what we want to say, what we want to do, etc. You can't break it. Now you take the RTI Act. Why are we not getting 50,000 applications every year for information? If the MLA knows that you are watching him all the time, eventually there is a corrective. It begins to correct, self-correct, because with that information you can do a lot of things. You can go to courts, you can go to NGT. The number of people, when you're talking about healing, the number of people who have gone to NGT who are ordinary people who they don't even take lawyers because we tell them don't take lawyers. They sleep in a bus, they go to Pune, they argue their own cases, and they come back in the same night bus. They're arguing the cases of turtles in Galjibagh Beach. There was a 70-year-old guy who was going there and arguing his case. There is Judith Almeida, who is now a candidate in Benali. She used to travel by ordinary bus. I said, Judith, at least take an ordinary sleeper at least so that you don't have circulation problem. But this woman is totally, indomitable, and she was going, coming back, and she got fantastic orders against big developers and so on. These people are really the people whom we should look for, because they are the ones who have said enough is enough. Forget about Facebook and all that sort of thing. But on the ground, there are possibilities which can entitle everybody here to launch a revolution.
We have everything. We have a very, very good constitution. We have our processes and systems in place when it comes to the democracy. Still, we are failing ourselves.
So, I've been asking this question in several forums around. Can you tell me what your fundamental rights are? Okay. How many do we have? How many rights do we have? How many duties do we have? Duties and responsibilities? Sorry? Many? There are 7 rights and there are 11 duties. But we don't know after all the education that we've had. Right? And I always joke with youngsters when they tell me that our parents didn't tell us, or our teachers, that you did make Sunny Leon the most searched person on the internet. Search for your rights and duties also. They are also on the internet. Right? So, somewhere we are very frivolous, somewhere we are big hypocrites because we don't know what our duties are. Shortcut, fadafat. We opt for corrupt systems because we are basically corrupt. It's not Congress or BJP who is corrupt, because Aam Aadmi Party made you realize that. Right? The citizen is corrupt. We would stand in line for 7 hours for a McDonald's burger, but not for a license or a passport. Come on, let's look at ourselves. Let's introspect, right? So we have a great democratic process. We have a great constitution. We have a great electoral office over here. The Chief Election Commissioner's office in India is highly respected the world over. But the entire process of the electoral process has been abused, not by just people in politics, but by citizens themselves. We vote for anybody who shows us a little promise because we are always waiting for a Messiah and a Mahatma to come. That's how Aam Aadmi Party emerged, right? Now BJP won, and then you had Narendra Modi who came with his 56-inch chest. And I remember I wrote an open letter to him. I said, it's not you that won. So I have some hope now. Because the last 2 elections which have happened, the one on a national scale in Delhi, everybody thinks BJP won or Narendra Modi won. It was for the first time that the public of India won. Because between the devil, the deep sea and the ravine, they chose the devil. Because you can fight the devil. Similarly in Delhi, Aam Aadmi Party didn't win. People know who Aam Aadmi Party is today. They know them also. It is just that they found them better than the ravine and the deep sea. So they chose the devil again. And I hope that happens in Goa and Punjab also. You choose the devil because you at least have a chance of fighting him. What are our choices? Right? We always want to say that, this party is better than the other, depending on where our bread is buttered. Come on. I'm apolitical, I'm non-partisan. I don't believe in any party. I believe only the citizen. Because I think the citizen is the highest office. Now that if citizen awakening and the awareness is not there, people will always mislead you. And we get misled because we are always waiting for that Mahatma or Messiah to come. That is our culture. We are a culture of idol worship. We are always looking at heroes. We are not looking at the hero within us. Therein lies the problem. So, like Badroy said, we really need to go deep and go at the grassroots level, go with the children, the youth, and make them aware of your rights, your duties, your responsibilities. India has a very powerful mission statement. It is called Satyamev Jayate. And I always joke, show me the truth in India. Can you see it? So, when we don't know, how will it happen? Right? Fundamental duty number 5, renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women. Every goddamn practice in this country is derogatory to the dignity of women. You have female feticide happening even in Goa. The highest incidence of female feticide is in South Bombay and South Delhi. Elite educated households, educated women killing their own children. Domestic violence, marital rape. Everybody cries out against rapes on the streets. Very small percentage, 60% of rapes in India happen in the homes. So when we don't know, how can we address this? So I think there's a deeper education required. Education is, the concept of education by parents is reduced to get your degree, great career, so you will get your BMW. We're not literate citizens and human beings, right? It's again boils down to that greed. It's what Gandhi said, right? There's enough for everyone's need, but there's not enough for anyone's greed. And we're all very greedy intrinsically. So I think we need to address that. That's the process.
Yeah. I'll quickly take Prasad and Bedroy and then I'll open it for the audience.
Yeah, I think you rightly said that election is the biggest process. But what I really we should improve is the process of electing or getting the candidates in front of people. Now, look at some of the faces we've been having for ages and ages. And they are nearing the grave but still contesting. But I think we should have a certain system where you can put up a good candidates by the parties. Perhaps India is the only country where a person has won the election sitting in the jail. Yeah, so we have the examples like that. So that's one thing. Another thing is that I think at least in Goa, the voters are thinking finally. If you say last 2 elections, we are finally thinking. Gone are those days where the family used to vote for a certain party, so the entire generation used to vote for that party. No, but last 2 elections in Goa, I think finally have.
We're thinking and voting.
Yes, very much.
Bedroy, I'll open it.
See, I think the political, this is not a solution according to me. As a pressure group, I think we have to be there throughout, constantly questioning them. Yeah, and it doesn't matter which party comes, whether it's BJP, Congress, AAP, whichever. It doesn't matter. That doesn't mean we should let our guard down. I think as a pressure group, we have to question. Like Claude was saying, there's an old man from Galjibag. I come from Galjibag, and I happen to know that old man, Kishore. Yeah. Kishore Penginkar. Yeah. We do work at very small ground levels. Okay, there used to be, I think last year there were 17 turtle nests, and this year there are none. Okay, just due to the shacks and the lights, the floodlights. So I think we have to empower our Gram Sabhas. Now the Panchayat elections also fought on the party lines, so which I think is the worst thing that is happening. The power to the people, the Panchayati Raj, which gives the power to the people, is now also controlled politically. So I don't know, politics is never a solution, it only corrupts. So the Panchayats are corrupt, unfortunately. Yeah, so I think the only hope is to be conscious, to have a love for the land and not let your guard
be
down.
a constant pressure group.
Yeah, constant, forever.
Yeah. On that note, I'll open it for the audience. Wait for the mic and specifically ask your question.
I won't tell my name because if I tell my name, so my religion will come. So it's about MOU. Even Pramod Acharya can give that answer. So it's between कोंकणी उलयता मरे हय एक डिवायड जाला MOI लागून सो एक प्रश्न आसा आनी म्हजो जाप बी आसा जाल्यार म्हगे रॉंग आसल्यार तुमी म्हाका सांगा सपोज वाय देर इज एक मायंडसेट A for apple, B for bat, C for cat म्हणल्यार सगळे सारके जाता म्हाका दिसना ते सारके जायना म्हणून म्हाका दिसता एक वाय कांट वी हॅव अ वायब्रंट सिलेबस वायब्रंट सिलेबस आसल्यार म्हाका दिसता एक बरें इंग्लीश तयार जावं शकता if when he come out with a 12th pass, not SSC, so he can speak good English, तो कोंकणी बरें उलोवं आनी he can वो हिंदी में अच्छी बात कर सके. So
Vivek, you would like to respond to this?
Syllabus
the time to relook at the syllabus rather than just looking at the languages and the medium of instruction.
I think that's totally accurate. I mean, that's a point well taken. And maybe, again, I tend to look at things a little analytically when it comes to these two things. One is I don't think that when on this MOI issue, I'm not in favor of necessarily discriminating as to which school the government gives money to or not. Okay, I think that people should, if the government is giving money to schools, they should do it on the basis of quality of education, and it shouldn't matter what language is used for instruction. However, I do know this, that any language, there are many languages which are struggling to survive all over the world, and any language that seeks to survive, the primary education is in that language, and so that, I mean, my own children go to an English language school. My Konkani is extremely poor. I wasn't raised in Goa, but I do know this, that if you want the language to survive, or going Karpon, you have to do it in the local language.
Next question.
Yeah, so regarding the language, okay, I think we have to be proud. I mean, the pride for one's language comes from within, okay. I'm not too conversant, I mean, I can't give a talk in Konkani, but I can write a film in Konkani, so that's how much I love my language, yeah. And I could have done a Hindi film to reach out to a global audience or make it Konkani and manipulate the story or whatever. So the idea is to be honest to one's culture, the language, and that's how the film happened. Okay, so I think, and the film won't, I mean, the language won't, I mean, it's not necessarily in the schools. I think it can be in us, you know, so that's all. Like today, suddenly, I think everyone is proud of the Konkani music, you know, which had sort of waning out, and suddenly everyone is taken notice of Konkani cinema. So I think we can be ambassadors of our own language because now we have gone international film festivals and whatever, tried to spread it out. So in a way, each and every one of us, Goan, is an ambassador for our culture, the language, and whatever we do. So I think we can take it individually. We can keep the language, culture, everything alive. Not necessarily being able to speak is one thing, but the consciousness for the love for the land, language, it's whole 360 degrees. I think
Jerry wanted to make a point, yeah. Prasad, welcome.
You know, I think just he didn't give his name, and he probably has a good reason for that. But I think he went a little deeper. We are seeing it at a language level. And, you know, a friend of mine, Rex, with who I do some work, he started a movement called Pormol Konkani Songita, so which is to revive Konkani music. And Badro has made a movie which has probably taken Konkani to the world. But I don't think that's what he's talking about. I think what he's talking about is that there are a lot of youngsters in Goa who, after going to a good school, are stifled with the English currency as a language, which is the global currency, right? Now, if they can't hold their fort in a place like Bombay or get their Portuguese passport and go to Swindon, they'll always remain, you know, stifled. So I think that's what he's talking about. That it's not just about medium of instruction, it's about what is it doing to the youth. So I think there's a deeper conversation and a deeper debate over here.
Yeah. Prasad?
I think I got it, what you're saying. But see, I don't know your name, but I think education is, life is what you get your education from. The rest is qualification. So I don't know. It's two separate things.
Okay, Prasad.
Yeah, I strongly believe that education of a child, whatever, should be able to make him competent enough to face the international market. Now, just because the child is going to English medium or whatever, or we go with English medium, does it mean that our love for Konkani is frail? No. If your love, MOI decides your love for Konkani, then that's just very wrong. I'm also going to ask the leaders who are fighting for a certain language, where did our children go to? Which school did you go to? They didn't want to make the children competent? Definitely wanted to. So I think it's less, parents decide. Let parents decide where the child wants to go.
Okay. Any more questions? Yeah. Mike? No, I cannot, because I cannot record your voice on the camera without the mic.
Sure.
As I've been listening to the talk about different topics, I almost busted a vein in my head because I get so angry when you talk of issues that Claude is talking about, the mining issue and how many years it took to fight certain other, the Marriott issue and others. Claude knows that some of us in the villages have also been involved in various issues. The great Saligaon garbage plant sits on my head in Saligaon, and I smell the essence every few days. We've been to the NGT, thanks to Claude and Norma, and we've been able to eventually get a ruling that wasn't totally in our favor, But at least we have some control over what happens up there. It means that the government has abdicated its duty and it has put the ball in our court and said, you go and monitor what's going on up there. So we have to trudge up there and we have to keep an eye on what's going on, the rubbish that's going on there and the garbage that's coming out. And according to us, it's not really working the way we would like to, but at least something has come out of it. It was a small bunch of us who did it. Well, there are various other issues. But I'd like to, as a teacher who's at a college level, I'm teaching at Xavier's in Mapsa, and a teacher of English, the issue of the medium of instruction becomes a little relevant. We talk about this Konkani and medium of instruction. Yes, I speak Konkani. I speak different types of Konkani because of the friends I have. There's the Hindu Konkani, there's the Bardes Konkani, Salsit Konkani. And I love speaking in Konkani. I feel a bit diffident because I'm not speaking good Konkani anymore. As a child, I spoke very good Konkani. But today, with demographic changes, my gardener who comes from Bijapur wants to speak English. The lady who comes from Chhattisgarh is the lady who comes to help me cleaning up. She comes from a different background. She speaks Hindi, even though she's been in Goa for a long time. I have just one solution to this. We need to develop Konkani and keep it because that's our beloved mother tongue. Why don't we just look at it as a compulsory subject right from the KG or whatever, right up to PhD level? Make it a compulsory subject. Everyone studies it.
Okay.
Your medium will be in English, but Konkani becomes a compulsory subject, and we have to develop the teaching of Konkani. Don't just say Konkani for nothing. What has the Konkani Academy done to develop a syllabus, to train teachers, to teach Konkani well?
Okay.
We will learn it all through our lives and study it well.
Claude, I'll quickly take your response on this and then I'll ask you for the final comments. Is the solution lie in the society?
It clearly lies in the society. It doesn't lie in the syllabus. And though I respect Alice and her work at the college, the solution never lies in anything being made compulsory, because the moment it's made compulsory, people begin to get a dislike for it. And this is happening. This is what I feel. They tend to get a dislike for it. The other thing is, I think that if we had more films like Bardura has made, that gets people more interested in Konkani than a compulsory.
Make it interesting. Bring the films into the syllabus.
So that is up to you. That's not up to us. You are in the university. It's not up to us. I will fully support you. You know my views on education. It is to take students out of college and out of school and let them go to learning places rather than study books. In studying books, they study nothing. They have got no expertise. They come back at the end of their BA and the MA and they can't be employed even by people like me, because we asked them, what have you done? They said, no, we've only been studying books and writing examinations. We have to stop that culture. They have to stop this culture of this type of curriculum which is fed to millions of people, the same curriculum to millions of people, and all those million people are different people. And we have to give them access to direct learning, to direct speaking. I taught, one of my friends in Kerala said, I want to send my daughters and sons to your place for learning English, speaking English. So they said, how much time do you require? I said, 10 days is enough. They said, 10 days is enough. No, it's not possible. I said, of course you can speak and learn English in 10 days. So they came to, and there was a technique you can learn. On the internet today, everything is possible. You can learn a language in 1 week. 2 of my friends learned Turkish within 1 week's time. If you want to do it, you can do it. It's a stupid way to teach English over 14 years under 14 different teachers with 14 different interpretations of how a particular word should be pronounced. It's a foolish thing to do because you confuse the students. But I have been saying, have an English speaking course for all people who are going into their secondary, but don't compromise on their primary exposure. My children went to Konkani medium school. They tell me every time, thank you for doing this.
Okay, Prasad, you wanted to make a quick point, then I'll take the final comments.
I just want to ask you one question. How many of you in the audience, speak Konkani to the children at home? The answers is there. You should begin from home.
Okay, now summing up, I think I'll take the final comments, and I have a very simple question because it is opinion poll day and we voted for our independent identity on that day. Vivek, I'll start with you. You said that hardly 600,000 of us are right now Goans. So you're essentially saying that almost 1 million of us are no longer native Goans. How big is the threat? Are you considering it as a threat to the identity of being a Goenka or a Goenkarpan? Or it's a natural progression in a civilization, it happens, survive and we move ahead?
That's a complicated question. I think that there are...
That's why I asked it in the line.
Right. There are a number of levels to it. I think that the great thing about Goa has always been, I was just discussing this essay by Richard Lanoy, who's a wonderful scholar with Claude. The great thing about Goa has always been its ability to assimilate, you know. India has that capacity, Goa has it to a remarkable level, where it rolls with the punches. And some essential things have never changed, which is quite marvelous about Goa. So I'm not that concerned about things which a real nativist might be concerned about, demographic decline, you know, being completely outvoted. In a place like Sikkim, you have, for instance, the natives are 20%. And Nepalis are 80%. There's no way a native Sikkimese will ever be chief minister. That could happen in Goa very easily. And I'm even not so concerned about it for one or two reasons. One big reason is the kind of soft power that Badroi's movie represents. Goa, the idea of Goa, the idea of Goanness, things like elements like Sosegat, but also certain other ideas that go along with Goa, these are very powerful. And for instance, a number, just like the example you were talking, Armando was talking about, a number of people who move into the state, they assimilate them and perhaps project them to an extent greater than Goans. But the main issues that do concern me about Goa, and this is something I promised my oldest son, who's a climate change obsessive, I'm concerned about things like climate change, you know, because quite possibly with rising sea levels, 30-40% of Goa's territory will actually be underwater in 20 years, 25 years, 30 years. We're not talking, these are real existential threats. So I'm much more concerned about that. This is, of course, something never discussed in Indian politics, but it's important to mention.
Redroy, is there a threat to this concept of Goenkar? Because we are getting outnumbered constantly.
Yeah, I don't think it's about the numbers. I think it's about, as I said, if everyone can do a bit, and whoever is come into Goa, they'll be Goans, as in they will be like one of us and whatever. Is it the number? Is it, should we stop going out? Should other people stop coming in? So I don't know what the solution is. You know, as we as natives or we as this, we have to maintain it. I think the movie was trying, in the movie, I didn't want to make it a Bollywood film. You know, a lot of, say, first Konkani action film or first Konkani sci-fi film. So it was not. This is first, for me, it's just a Konkani film made of Goa and done with honesty. So if we have that consciousness and not ape to be something else, I think we'll retain our identity. So the idea is not aping something else. I think we are as comfortable a Goan as anyone of us.
Jay?
So I think wrong person to ask the question, because I'm religion agnostic. I don't believe in a religion. I don't believe in the region. And I don't believe in the nation also.
Probably you're the right person to answer that.
I think there's a threat to the concept of being a human being. We've forgotten to become human beings. Because the basic concept and responsibility of a human being is that how can I leave the earth better than when I came into it? And not because it's selfless or charitable or altruistic, because our children will also live in the same earth. So if we are not doing that, are we really fulfilling our responsibility of being a human? Which I don't think ancestors did. The current generation is surely not thinking that. Everybody's just monetizing. So I think that's a bigger question.
Yeah. Prasad, I'll go to Arma in the end.
First of all, Goenkarpan is someone understood by someone who was born Goenkar. Okay, let's take it very, very clear. Because when we go outside Goa, okay, we become like a sugar in the milk and we sweeten the place. But if you see the people coming over here, I'm sorry to say it's not the case. Yeah, but keeping that in mind, because I've got many of my cousins living outside, but keeping that in mind, there is a threat, if not immediately, in the years to come. Definitely, yes.
Okay.